Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes. Welcome back to another edition, another episode, another conversation of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. Santoki cannot be with me today because if you follow our handles, you'll know that Santoki is currently in South Africa watching 50 over cricket. So whilst we on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast are, of course, endeavouring to kind of follow Super 50 and give you the necessary updates and so on and so forth, whether that be on our Instagram channels, whether that be on our Twitter handles, not so much Facebook, but, you know, if you follow the handles, you follow the handles. Santoki jetted off to South Africa. He said, last I saw, he was at Newlands, taking in, I don't even know who was playing, but was taking in that game at Newlands. But what I wanted to do on this particular episode, it's not a Super 50 episode per se. I am going to talk about Super 50. I'm going to record something in the next 24 hours, 48 hours or so, looking at the first week of Super 50. This particular episode, I wanted to kind of just update all of the kind of listeners, followers, supporters of the podcast. What the hell? 1 second, people. What's this? My rum cream. Yes, look at this, people. My Worthy Parker State rum cream from St. Catherine, Jamaica. Go get your rum cream, people. Rum bar. You should be thankful that I'm promoting your product here. No one gave me money for this, but I'm going to touch this after this episode. But anyways, I wanted to kind of just update followers, supporters of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast about the latest kind of going on in West Indies cricket. This isn't like an in-depth episode. It's more to just reflect on some significant news that has been going on in the last week that, yes, we've kind of spoken about a bit on our Twitter handle, but if we don't do a kind of general update on our YouTube handle or the YouTube channel, it may have passed people by. So 3 big things have come out that we just want to touch on. So first things first is the announcement from Dr Kishore Shallow. And again, for those of you who are well versed on West Indies cricket, you should know that Dr Kishore Shallow is the president of Cricket West Indies. So I'm going to read the statement. So a couple of days ago, or about 4 days ago, Dr. Kishore Shallow announced the Webby report. Now, for those of you who are properly invested in West Indies cricket, and even those of you who aren't, a quick recap. In 2020, 2021, a report was carried out by Dr. Webby, Senator Don Webby, in an independent task force, which also included Sir Hilary Beckles, Mr. Derek Murray, Mr. OK Melhado, and Mr. Charles Wilking QC. And the task force essentially looked at governance in West Indies cricket, and they presented a 36-page report drawn from a wide cross-section of expertise from knowledgeable people, looking at the fact that there should be governance review. Now, again, those of you who are kind of key stakeholders invested supporters, fans of West Indies cricket, will know that the Webby report was the 5th external governance review of its kind within the past 13 years, and all of these different reports have kind of ultimately, at the kind of crux of them, whether it be the Patterson report, whether it be the Lucky report, and now the Webby report, all of them have said that the kind of governance structure in West Indies cricket needs to be completely overhauled. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to just read it out to you. Dr. Webby said, and like I say, this is back in 2020. It might have been late 2019. But Dr. Webby said the following. These were the 5 key kind of things. There was obviously a 36-page report. And in the kind of video description below, I'll put the link to the full report. If you care about West Indies cricket, it is essential reading to kind of understand some of the structural governance problems within West Indies or Caribbean cricket. But Webby's report was kind of narrowed down to 5 key fundamentals. And Senator Webby said that the recommendations, the major 5 recommendations for Cricket West Indies were comprehensive reform of the governance structure using key principles of modern governance to provide greater accountability and transparency. Again, if you know enough about West Indies cricket, those last two words are the key issues there when you look at it from a territorial perspective: accountability and transparency. Bullet point 2, membership of the board of directors should reflect a wide cross-section of skills and competencies, and a smaller and more balanced board of 12. It's currently 18 because, again, for those of you who don't know, 2 directors come from each of the territories. So Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Leeward Islands, Windward Islands. So Webby said the board, which is currently 18, needs to be reduced to 12 in the immediate instance, with an eventual reducing to 9, including at least 2 women. Now, I hasten to add, since this report has been written, nothing has changed in that regard. Okay, so when we're talking about Webby and Hilary Beckles and Cole, Charles Walkin put loads of effort into this, nothing of real substance in terms of the core fundamentals of what Webby said have been done yet. Bullet point 3, redefine roles of president and vice president to be more board specific and non-executive. I think that was a complete and utter draw out and dig at what had been kind of common practice under Dave Cameron. Establishment of a nominations committee to identify and evaluate potential directors and to nominate future directors and committee members. Reduction in Cricket West Indies committee structure from 12 to 5 committees. Now, like I say, that's just 5 of the kind of key bullet points that came out of the Webby report about governance reform of Cricket West Indies. 3 years later, and not enough has been done about it. But again, this isn't, I don't think that's the blame of Ricky Skerritt. I don't think that's the blame of Dr. Kishore Shallow. You go back and look at all the myriad of reports that are being carried out from Patterson to the said Webby report. And each time, whoever has been president of Cricket West Indies, you've had some presidents, Dave Cameron, who have pretty much refused to implement any reforms, right? Saying that it's not practical, Remember, these are independent task force which have carried out these reforms. To people like Skerritt and Shallow, who have wanted to do it, but faced what I call a level of intransigence from kind of stuck in the mud old boys network who refuse to change things for the betterment of West Indies cricket, because as I always equate it to, it's like turkeys voting for Christmas. Webby was suggesting things that would better improve the governance of West Indies cricket, but to do that, certain old fogies need to get out the way. So, anyways, in the last week, Dr. Kishore Shallow released this press release, and I'll just read the comments from Dr. Kishore. The need for governance reform within Cricket West Indies has been a long-standing call, and we are acutely aware of its importance. The Webby report offers us a roadmap to a more efficient, transparent, and accountable organisation. We are committed to delivering on this commitment, ensuring that Cricket West Indies operates at its full potential and sets a standard for good governance in the cricketing world. He further added, the process of governance reform will be a collaborative and transparent one, with input from all parties invested in West Indian cricket's future. The board meeting was an important step in gaining momentum in advancing our governance reform process. So I should just add that a board meeting had taken place about a month ago, with the primary focus being on the Webby report, and Don Webby and his 5-member committee were commissioned to enhance stakeholder trust and ensure more transparency and accountability. So essentially, what Dr. Kishore Shallow was saying, we are committed to making this work. And he was essentially releasing the press release to say, we are going ahead with this. Now, first things first, kudos to Dr. Kishore Shallow for bringing it back into the limelight. The easy thing to do would have been to shelve it and say, well, boy, we can't really make it work because there's not enough people invested in it. There's too much fight down to make this happen. But Kishore, to his credit, has said, now we must persist with this. We've got to return to this, and we've got to try to push this through. And I kind of went on Instagram and I kind of bigged up Kishore for it. And some of you will say, oh, Mash, you're a fanboy of Dr. Kishore. No, it's not even about that. If we want anything to improve in West Indies cricket, governance has to improve first and foremost. You cannot expect West Indian players to go on a cricket field and just improve, just so. If the off the field isn't improved and professionalized to the recognized standards that are expected around the world when it comes to governance, how can you expect players to developing an antiquated system, and that goes from the top to the bottom. If you don't fix the roots, how can you fix what goes out on the field itself? And that's both in the boardroom to what goes on in the schools and so on and so forth. So I was like, yeah, this is excellent from Dr. Kishore. And my kind of clarion call to all of the invested stakeholders in the region is either get on the ride or get out the way. Simple as that. I always call Conde Riley's name, and I use Conde Riley not as a kind of pinata to kind of blame all the ills and woes of West Indies cricket, but he is an exemplar to me of somebody who has been in post too long, recently got re-elected, in post too long, resistant to change, ignorant, and he needs to get out of the way. Because if things like governance reform are going to happen, the people who have been there from day dot, who have been part of that kind of inner circle or inner sanctum that is resistant to governance change, you need to quit. You need to get out the way and let this go ahead, because this is step one in improving West Indies cricket. As ever, people get at me in the comments below. You may disagree, you may not agree, whatever. You may agree, whatever, get in the comments below. Remember that I've put the link in the descriptor to where you can read the Webby report in full. So before you even comment, make sure you go and educate yourself about what the Webby report actually said before you start saying, oh, but no. Read it first and then understand why this might have come back into the cricketing consciousness. Second thing I wanted to speak about. So also in the last week, maybe about 10 days ago now, prior to the start of Super 50, Miles Bascombe, director of cricket, and Dr. Kishore Shallow, they held a press conference. And one of the things they announced at the press conference was for this year's Super 50, we're now a week into Super 50. At the time of recording, Guyana Harpy Eagles are struggling against the Leeward Island Hurricanes. I think Barbados and West Indies Academy has just been rained off. But they announced that there was going to be bonus point allocations in this year's Super 50. And just for those of you who don't know, I should put it up on the screen, to be fair. Let me see if I can do this, people. Give me a second. Let me see if I can do a little something. How do I do this again? See, this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't plan. You start doing all manner of madnesses. Here we go. So you should be able to see this on the screen. So as part of the bonus points allocation, they've basically, as well as the 4 points for a win, 2 points for a draw or no result, and 0 if you lose, obviously, they've added a myriad of bonus points. So if you score at 6 runs and over in the first power play and you've lost less than 2 wickets, bonus points. If you score at more than 5 runs per over in the second power play and you've lost less than 4 wickets, bonus points. If you complete your chase of whatever total you're chasing in under 90% of the allotted overs, bonus points. Score over 300, bonus point. Bowling, bonus points. Take 3 wickets or more in the first power play, bonus points. Restriction in the final power play, if runs go less than 6 runs and over, bonus point. If in your whole innings you go at less than 50% dot ball percentage, bonus point. You get the kind of, you kind of get what I'm saying. You can see it on the screen for yourself, right? So you kind of get the idea of what they've tried to do here. They've tried to incentivize performances. I don't even know if incentivize is the right word, but they've tried to make Super 50 and the bonus points relate to the traditional weaknesses that West Indies cricket have faced in the last, let's say the last 10 years, if not more, in specifically in List A or 50 over cricket. I'll stop sharing that for now, right? So Darren Sammy, as I understand it, went around to all of the kind of head coaches of all the teams in Super 50 and said, these bonus points, are with a it's joined up for the betterment of West Indies cricket, and that's long overdue. Irrespective of whether you think the bonus points can work and irrespective of what you think about it, this is one of those few occasions in West Indies cricket where the domestic structure is joined up in its thinking to the international side. We struggle with dot ball percentage. We struggle with scoring over 300 runs. We struggle with knowing how to rotate strike in certain phases of the game. We struggle with taking wickets at the front end and at the back end. So it makes it, we are breathe hot and cold with good fielding. So if you effect 2 run outs or more, I think you get bonus points for that as well. basically we struggle with all facets of the game. So again, in tandem with Miles Bascombe as director of cricket, Darren Sammy as the head coach of the white ball sides, he said these are our areas of weakness. Let these become bonus points, targeted, tiered bonus points for teams, individuals that can achieve things. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Now, there is a completely different argument to that in terms of will it work? Now, my whole thing is, and this is linked to the final point I'm going to make as well. If you've got like, let's say you have a field of X number of players in Super 50, and for argument's sake, 90% of them are mediocre. Is adding bonus points suddenly going to make a mediocre player any better? Now, the flip side to all of this is no, it's not. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't do this, because if domestic cricket isn't lined up to the wider benefit of West Indies cricket, what is the point of domestic cricket? How many times have we seen the same faces lick down a whole team and take a 7 for 5 for 6 for, and when it comes to international cricket, ain't nothing happening? How many times do we see team totals of under 250, and then when it gets to international cricket, people are wondering how comes the West Indies team can't regularly score over 280? If it's shit at the domestic level, it will be shit at the international level when we come across even better drilled teams, right? So I get the idea of saying these are targets for every single player, and every single team work towards them. Now, there's a time to analyze things and did it work and so on and so forth. There's a time for that, probably at the end of the tournament. I'm going to do like a week breakdown of the first week of the tournament in the next few days or next few hours or so. But let's come back to this bonus point argument at the end of the tournament and weigh up, did it bring more benefit than weaknesses? Or was it kind of a negligible impact? Let's assess that. Now, in the early stages, without getting too much into the analysis, have we seen more teams go hard in the opening power play? Yes. So immediately I can say to you, this bonus point thing has had an impact on the first power play. More teams have come out with clear intent, seeking to get that bonus point in the first power play. Would that have happened anyway without this bonus points allocation? I'm not so certain. I'm really not so certain. So, like I say, I don't want to hear a black and white, it's either good or it isn't good. Let's come and fully analyze it at the end of the tournament. But there are some early signs of it making sense vis-a-vis wider aims for the men's international side. Again, get at me in the comments below. You may agree, you may disagree, you may think there's a bit more nuance to it. Whatever that may be, get me in the comments below. And then the final thing that I just wanted to touch on in terms of latest news in West Indies cricket is the announcement that there are now major increases in prize money for men's and women's events, starting with the current CG United Super 50. So again, Miles Bascombe and Kishore Shallow announced the following. I'll just read it to you. With the region's marquee list day tournament set to bowl off, well, this was last week, there is the incentive for the champions to take home a top prize of US $100,000, as well as the trophy itself. The losing finalists will receive US $50,000, while the team that tops the points table in the league phase will also get US $50,000. This is the biggest prize money in the history of the tournament. Dr Kishore Shallow said, the aim is to incentivize our cricketers, which will ultimately result in more intense and competitive cricket. We expect this, along with other developmental programs, will help to close the gap between international cricket and our regional tournaments. These new prize monies represent a significant increase in the reward purse for teams in regional cricket. We firmly believe this will act as a fillip to players' performances and their pursuit of excellence. This is part of our investment in the game and those who fly the flag on the field. The increase extends to all senior men's and women's tournaments. This isn't Kishore now. There is in the West Indies Red Ball Championship that will be played in the first half of 2024. The champions of that competition will win US $250,000. The second place team will receive US $100,000. Also, in the Women's Super 50 Cup and T20 Blaze, the winners of the 50 overs competition will receive US $20,000. with a minimum increase of US $10,000 annually over the next 4-year cycle. The runners-up will receive half these amounts. And similarly, in the T20 Blaze, the winners will be rewarded with an increase US $10,000, with further increases for the upcoming 4 years, with the runners-up receiving half these amounts. Now, again, to me, it's a similar argument to the bonus points thing. On the face of it, can you really, as a West Indian fan, West Indies stakeholder, somebody with a vested interest in West Indies cricket, fight down that announcement? I don't think you can. I know there's been recent windfalls financially in West Indies cricket. Remember, they own CCG now. That's the effective hub of West Indies cricket. It's more than just a kind of cricket venue and so on and so forth, right? Obviously, we've had India come in the last year. England are due to come at the end of the year. Cool. They have, Bascombe and Shallow and whoever else, maybe Johnny Grave, etc., taken the view that the only one of the ways to get better cricket happening is to increase the prize money. Now, again, the naysayers and the doom-mongers will say just giving mediocre players more money doesn't lead to better performances. I mean, when the Professional Cricket League was set up under Dave Cameron and Richard Pybus, more players got professional contracts in the Caribbean. Did that lead to better cricket domestically? No. So I get it. I get the argument that increasing prize money does nothing for the overall quality. I get that argument. And I'm not sure where I stand on it, but it's definitely an argument that is worthy of hearing. But will increased prize money lead to better intensity? You would like to think so. Better intensity doesn't necessarily mean better quality, but it should mean, I guess, a more competitive, for want of a better word, vibe or to the tournaments, knowing that there is an increase. I guess it's taking that kind of adage that West Indian players are motivated by the money, right? That's why everybody wants to go to the IPL and go chase down T20 leagues and da. So if you incentivize the domestic competitions and say, here's the pot for the winners, I don't know how that money gets divided. Does the whole 250 go to all the players, or does the cricket board for the winning territory teeth the money? Like, I don't know how that works, but does a bigger pot incentivize cricketers to get better? Or does it, at the very least, which is what my argument is, incentivize them to just be a bit more intense on the cricket field, knowing that there is a bag at the end of it all that is a significantly better bag than there used to be. This then leads to, when this hasn't been announced, but this is me almost kind of putting an argument out there. If we are incentivizing the winning of these competitions with a better financial bag, what will be the financial incentive for players to sign contracts for the West Indies senior men's and senior women's side instead of T20, instead of being freelance cricketers? So I am very intrigued to know, is this also going to play out vis-a-vis central contracts for West Indies cricket? Obviously, we know that on the horizon is this whole idea of IPL teams trying to buy cricketers and essentially own the cricketers rather than the cricket boards having any say, international cricket boards having any kind of say over the players' availability. This has already been plaguing West Indies cricket for time. So what are we going to increase the bag for a central West Indies contract? And even if we do increase the bag, is that bag realistic enough to ward off players running to every T20 tournament they can possibly run to? Who knows? That's one to look for in the future, because the announcement of central contracts is due very, very soon. So I'm very, very intrigued to know what's the financial bag to sign a West Indies central contract. Anyways, people, like I say, this was actually supposed to be shorter than it's gone, 25 minutes. This is the latest in West Indies cricket. If you didn't know, now you know. Most importantly of all, get at me in the comments below, read the different links in the comments below. And yeah, let's talk on it. Let's conversate. You know how I do already. Once you comment, I tend to get in it. Either at the bare minimum, I'll like the comment, but I try to reply to as many of them as I can without getting tired. As ever, follow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Twitter and Instagram, at Carib Cricket. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast financially, you know how we always say, we don't do sponsorship. We have no sponsor, but you yourselves, The people who follow are essentially the sponsors. Head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket, and you can give as little as £1, £1 rupee, £1, $1, whatever it is your currency is, to kind of keep us going and keep us on the air. I'll be Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you as ever. See you soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.